Hi everyone, my name is Trang T. I'm a postdoc at the University of Pennsylvania, and today I'm excited to share with you how our analysis of ISCB honorees and keynotes reveals disparities. First, it's important to note that peer recognition is central to how we as scientists progress in our careers. So one can imagine a lack of diversity in science could lead to biases that limit scientific work relevant to minoritized communities. In this work, we asked, do the composition of ISCB honorees reflect the composition of the field? We set out to curate a dataset of 412 honorees who were ISCB fellows, as well as keynote speakers at the conference on Research in Computational Molecular Biology and this very conference, ISMB, starting from 1993. We compared this dataset with a list of potential speakers, which we consider to be last or senior authors of manuscripts published in Bioinformatics, BMC Bioinformatics, and BLAS Computational Biology. We aggregated the metadata from PubMed and PubMed Central to extract over 34,000 corresponding authors of almost 30,000 articles from 1998 to 2019. We note that having a background distribution like this is important for obtaining a good estimate of whether it's an enrichment or depletion, even with the presence of potentially inaccurate predictions. However, we keep in mind that there are still systemic factors that prevent individuals from minoritized groups to participate in the field in the first place that we're not accounting for. That being said, what can we compare? We first analyzed the gender compositions by taking the first name of author or honoree, run it through generalize.io, which is a popular gender prediction service, and get back a probability of being male or female for that name. For example, the first name of David would receive a very high probability of being male, whereas the name Sarah would receive a very low probability of being male. A name that is common for both genders, like Avery, would receive a score that's closer to the middle. So we averaged these probabilities of all PubMed authors to estimate the gender composition of the field. The male proportion here is shown in blue, and the female proportion is shown in yellow. We see a slow increase of the proportion of female authors throughout the years, arriving at just over 20% in 2019. Comparing to the keynote speakers, we found no statistically significant difference in the gender proportions for both groups. We also looked at the origins of the scientists' names. To do this, we scraped the English Wikipedia's category of living people. We looked for nationality mentioned in the first sentence of the main text, and if that information is not available, we also looked at the nationality field in the personal details bar. From there, we compiled a set of over 700,000 name-country pairs to feed into our long short-term memory neural net model. And for each name, then obtain a probability of its originating from each of the 10 country groups. So what are these 10 country groups? We have adapted the grouping from a classifier called NamePrism, and there are limitations to this method that we have detailed in our paper, but I want to add a quick note that these groups were identified based on linguistic patterns from name etymology rather than religious or racial similarities. This plot is similar to what you've seen before, but instead of 2 categories of female and male, now we have 10 categories for 10 different country groups. Being highlighted right now is the scientists with Celtic or English names. And as you can see, the proportion, not the total number, but the proportion of PubMed authors with Celtic or English names has decreased over the years. Contrasting this with name origin composition of the keynote speakers, we see an overrepresentation within the honoree group. We found no statistically significant difference between the 2 groups for scientists with European names, but the honorees with East Asian names are being underrepresented. Our analysis was not adequately powered to detect any difference among the other groups. To perform the affiliation analysis for the speakers and fellows, we looked at their biographies on the web pages, and for authors, we used the Python library PubMedPy to extract this information. We ran an enrichment analysis to assess the affiliation, whether it's over or underrepresented. And we also used the R library WRU to estimate the race and ethnicity of all the US affiliated scientists. First, we found an overrepresentation of US affiliated honorees. The circle here represents the expected number of US-affiliated honorees, and the triangle represents the actual number of US-affiliated honorees that we observed. So if we take the difference, we see that the US is overrepresented by over 84 honorees. And if we plot this for other countries, we see that almost half of the excess in the US honorees was accounted for by a deficit of 41 honorary slots from China, France, and Italy. And if we look at the log of the enrichment value, we see that US-affiliated honorees were overrepresented by a factor of 1.6. And when we examine the race ethnicity composition between PubMed authors and the fellows and keynote speakers, we see a striking disparity here. Over the years, white honorees have been significantly overrepresented, and Asian honorees have been significantly underrepresented. For Black and Hispanic categories, our analysis did not have the power to detect any difference, but this does not mean that the lack of representation of these groups is not also a problem. After we reported our findings this year among 12 ISCB fellows and 5 ISMB keynote speakers, the mean probability of each honoree having an East Asian name is about 33%, higher than any estimate in previous years. It also includes the first ever ISCB fellow from China. So compared to past years, the Society has done a better job at reflecting the diversity of scientists in our field of computational biology. So we hope that with our rigorous analysis of representation and biases, societies can start designing policies to honor scientists in a way that counter these biases and enhance equity. This work would not have been possible without an incredible team, and I also like to thank individuals who have given constructive feedback to improve our study. Finally, these are links to the data and code in case you want to perform similar study for your field. Thank you.